in that he couldn't have actually done what he believed he was doing. It's equivalent to saying someone went armed to rob a bank, or someone was convicted of going armed to rob a bank, and you're saying, oh, actually, this gun was only a replica, it wouldn't have actually been able to fire bullets, even if the person robbing the bank wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, that's a good analogy, and that's very pertinent to that case.
Yeah, so I think that was really a mistake to challenge the orthodoxy on that case. The cases really to pursue are ones when someone has been, let's say, diagnosed and they're challenging the diagnosis, or where they are essentially more of an innocent victim in this rather than a perpetrator. So I think that's key, and I think there were some serious flaws in that case. I think Kevin Borwick did a really good job with the information he had, and it was pro bono as well, to the best of my knowledge, to a large extent at least. I think if he didn't have anyone on hand to really advise him closely all the time, that may have been what hampered perhaps some of his cross-examinations. And that's unfortunate, because you really need someone on hand who has extensive and detailed information and knows exactly where to look for particular bits of information to contradict things that are being said in court. And I think if he'd had that, he may have been able to challenge Robert Gallo more effectively. Essentially, Robert Gallo perjured himself by saying...
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, but one way was by saying, well, there'd been, if I remember correctly, he said that he'd not been found guilty of any misconduct by his scientific peers. Well, that's exactly what he had been found guilty of, because there was a multi-year investigation by scientists that included people from the National Academy of Sciences that essentially did find him guilty of serious scientific misconduct. So that was perjury for a start.
Yeah, but nothing came of it.
No, I think that's unfortunate. That's very unfortunate. But I don't think he'll escape indefinitely.
No, he may not, but he's certainly got his way for a long time now, hasn't he?
He has, but I don't think... I'm pretty sure that in history he will not go down as a hero in the long run.
There's no question that he won't go down as a...
No. I think one of the challenges, though, also for people fighting this whole blunder is that many from the early years have tended to think, well, we'll just give people the correct information and then the problem will be solved, and that hasn't happened. And reality is this is not a 100-yard sprint, it is a relay race, and any one individual can probably stand so many years putting their all into it, and then they need to take a break for their own well-being and to pass the baton on to others.
Well, let's see where we go from here. I think we're in a pretty good state, really, the movement, because the facts are coming out daily to do with the...
They are. They are. As people have said, I think Celia Farber said that truth can go into a holding pattern, almost like a plane waiting to land, but it can't stay in the air away from the ground indefinitely. And but then again, from looking at, let's say, religious prohibitions on homosexuality, because of the overwhelming force and the relatively small numbers of people, that went into a holding pattern for hundreds and hundreds of years. So it can be a lot longer than we might expect. But I agree with you. I do see some healthy signs of more people becoming aware and taking an interest in it. And I think another angle to alert people to is the amount of money of taxpayers' money that's being spent on AIDS. So when you start hooking ordinary people on issues that directly affect them, such as their money, now Professor Carey Mullis said the way to stop AIDS would be to stop the money. He said if you stop all the funding, AIDS will magically stop. So one approach has to be, I think, to tackle people and letting them know how their tax money is being spent or being misspent on AIDS.
Good idea.
And I think once they begin to realize, well, their money is being wasted and it's not for any practical benefit, then that will cause a much larger number of people to start objecting to it.
There's a lot of food for thought there.
Yeah, there certainly is. There certainly is.
So I'd like to thank you, Mike Hersee, very much for your great contribution to this discussion, and I've certainly learnt a lot from it, and I'm sure many listeners will.
My pleasure. And if any of your listeners, in fact, have questions arising from any of the points I've made, I'd be happy to either perhaps go through them or perhaps give you some written answers that you could go through.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike.